It grows in poor soil, feeds without chemicals, and holds more protein than any grain on Earth, yet no one plants it. Archaeologists find its seeds buried beside ancient fires, waiting for rediscovery. Was it lost or deliberately erased? This native supercrop is way better than corn, but no one grows it anymore. Let's find out. Before cornfields stretched across America, another plant fed entire civilizations. It thrived in the same soil, outlasted floods and droughts, and carried more nutrition than anything growing beside it. Archaeologists now call it one of the most efficient crops in pre-Columbian North America, yet few people today even know its name. Centuries before maize dominated, native farmers along the Mississippi River, the Ohio Valley, and the Great Plains grew this seed as part of a system called the Eastern Agricultural Complex. It wasn't just one crop, it was an ecosystem of balance. Goosefoot, maygrass, sumpweed, and sunflower worked together, creating a sustainable food web that could feed large populations without destroying soil. Carbon dating from ancient hearths shows that people were planting and roasting this crop over 3,000 years ago. Its seeds appear in thousand-year-old earth ovens from Kentucky to Arkansas. Some still carry microscopic burn marks, proof that they were once dinner, not debris. Historians found evidence of vast cultivation near Cahokia, the largest native city north of Mexico. It sustained tens of thousands, and yet the very crop that helped them thrive later disappeared completely. So what happened? How does a plant so capable, so adaptable, fall through history's cracks? The answer begins with a simple shift, a new seed arriving from the south that would change everything about power, trade, and survival. And that's where the story of the lost supercrop truly begins. The plant had a strange name, Chenopodium berlandieri, or what many call American goosefoot. To native farmers thousands of years ago, it was life in seed form. It grew wild across Mexico, Missouri, and the Great Lakes, yet it behaved like a gift that asked for nothing in return. You could plant it once and harvest for seasons. The grains fed families, and the leaves were rich in calcium and protein. Studies show it contained 3 times more iron than corn and nearly the same amino acid balance as quinoa from the Andes. That's why some researchers now call it America's first quinoa. Archaeologists uncovered caches of these seeds at sites like Cahokia and the Ozark Bluff Dwellers' caves, stored carefully in woven baskets. The people who lived there were skilled farmers who mixed practicality with care for the land. Goosefoot was perfect for that system. It grew without fertilizer, restored the soil, and resisted long droughts that could wipe out maize. But the mystery deepens here. The plant thrived in every condition and carried more nutrients than the crops that replaced it. So why did people abandon it? The clues lie in how civilization changed. Corn wasn't just a plant, it was a symbol of trade, power, and order. And as maize took over, goosefoot began to fade from sight, pushed out by systems that valued control more than balance. The next part of the story reveals how that happened. When maize arrived from the south, it changed everything. Corn didn't just grow, it conquered. Within a few hundred years, it spread from Mexico to the Great Lakes, reshaping entire economies and belief systems. By 1000 CE, cornfields stretched across North America, feeding cities like Cahokia, which held more people than London at that time. Goosefoot, on the other hand, stayed humble. It grew quietly along riverbanks, needed no irrigation, and produced smaller, lighter grains. Farmers could eat it, but couldn't easily trade or tax it. Corn offered something goosefoot never did: control. It could be stored, counted, traded, and used to build wealth. That gave rulers leverage over land and people. As societies shifted toward hierarchy, maize became the crop of power, while goosefoot became the plant of the poor. Archaeologists even found storage pits once filled with goosefoot that later held only corn, a quiet symbol of cultural takeover. When colonists arrived, they carried their own bias. To them, corn looked like civilization. Goosefoot looked wild. Early European botanists described it as a coarse weed of the savages, ignoring that it once sustained whole nations. The change wasn't about which crop was better, it was about which crop could be controlled. Corn became the face of progress. Goosefoot became forgotten ground cover. But the story didn't end there, because while humans turned away, nature kept growing it. The next chapter begins in the wild fields no one thought to look in. Goosefoot was the kind of plant that refused to obey. It didn't need plowing, irrigation, or fertilizer. It grew anywhere, on rocky slopes, in poor soil, beside rivers where no one tended it. Early farmers couldn't control it, and that freedom made it dangerous to systems built on ownership. Settlers called it a weed because it grew where their crops couldn't. Agricultural journals from the 1800s described it as a rough, untamable plant. But behind that insult was fear. If a plant fed people without farms, what happened to the idea of progress or profit? Goosefoot fixed nitrogen into the ground, meaning it improved the soil instead of stripping it. It withstood long, dry spells, surviving temperatures that would ruin corn. Tests on preserved seeds from ancient storage pits showed remarkable resilience. They could still sprout after centuries underground. Few modern crops can claim that. But industrial agriculture wanted predictability, not independence. Corn and wheat could be planted in straight rows, measured, taxed, and patented. Goosefoot belonged to no one. Therefore, it had no place in a system built on control. Even so, this stubborn plant never stopped growing. It blended into modern weeds, waiting quietly along fence lines and empty lots. Botanists ignored it for decades, thinking it held no value. However, nature never forgets what works. And one summer, in a patch of soil no one paid attention to, the story took a strange turn again. A group of researchers in Missouri were testing soil for nitrogen levels when they noticed something strange. Hidden between rows of corn was a cluster of plants that didn't belong there. The leaves were sharp-edged, and the seeds clung like dust to the stems. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary weed. But when they ran DNA tests, the results shocked everyone. It was Chenopodium berlandieri, the same crop that native farmers once grew 3,000 years ago. Somehow, it had survived centuries of neglect, hiding in plain sight. Samples collected from Illinois, Oklahoma, and Kansas matched ancient domesticated strains stored in museums. This meant the plant never truly vanished. It simply went wild. When tested in labs, goosefoot seeds showed 20 to 25% protein and natural resistance to pests. It didn't need pesticides or fertilizer. It even fixed nitrogen back into the soil, helping other plants grow stronger. Farmers who saw these results couldn't believe it. A so-called weed had outperformed corn in soil health and nutrition. Therefore, the discovery forced scientists to rethink what they knew about agriculture. Some began calling goosefoot the ghost crop because it had been living quietly alongside modern farming, refusing extinction. However, this rediscovery raised an uncomfortable question. If a plant this powerful could survive alone, what does that say about the crops we depend on today? And that question led researchers back into the lab, searching for answers buried in forgotten seeds. When researchers began studying goosefoot again in the 1990s, they noticed something extraordinary. The plant adapted faster than almost any other native crop. It survived in dry soils where corn failed and thrived in poor, sandy ground that modern agriculture had written off. In tests, its roots held moisture longer, cutting water use by nearly 40% compared to maize. Its nutrient profile stunned scientists. Each seed carried twice the calcium of corn, more amino acids than rice, and a protein quality similar to quinoa from the Andes. One researcher called it the missing twin of quinoa, just born on the wrong continent. But what made goosefoot so remarkable wasn't only nutrition. it helped heal the land. Like legumes, it fixed nitrogen back into the soil naturally, reducing the need for fertilizers that harm rivers and ecosystems. It grew thickly enough to prevent erosion and regenerated faster after harvest. However, the real twist came when geneticists in Arkansas and Colorado mapped its DNA. They discovered that goosefoot had been evolving quietly beside corn for centuries, picking up resistance to diseases that now threaten global grain supplies. This means a crop forgotten for 500 years may hold genes that could save modern agriculture. Therefore, as labs start rebreeding this native supercrop, some experts say it could become the cornerstone of sustainable farming. But before that can happen, another movement is already reviving it, one that began not in labs, but on ancestral soil. On a quiet piece of land in Oklahoma, a Cherokee farmer named Raymond Redbird bends over a small patch of plants. To most people, it looks like another weed in a field. But to him, it's history reborn. These are the same goosefoot seeds his great-grandmother spoke about, the ones elders used in stews, flatbreads, and medicine long before tractors touched the ground. Across the country, this story repeats. From the Osage Nation in Missouri to the Mandan Hidatsa Gardens in North Dakota, native growers are bringing goosefoot back. They call it food sovereignty, but it's more than farming. It's a return of memory. Every planting revives an unbroken link to ancestors who survived drought, colonization, and hunger. Ethnobotanists helping these communities record how the seeds are shared. Some farmers trade them during cultural gatherings. Others plant them near cornfields, letting both crops grow side by side like old allies. Goosefoot enriches the soil while corn shades its roots. This method once fed whole villages, and now it's feeding a revival. However, the deeper meaning lies beyond harvests. These farmers aren't just growing food, they're growing independence. One elder put it simply, "The land remembers who we are when we plant what it gave us." Therefore, as these small gardens spread, the question grows louder. What happens when the wild joins back with the cultivated and old seeds start speaking again? Because what they found next changed how we see this weed forever. Every spring, when the floodwaters pull back along the Mississippi River, a faint green vine begins to climb. Most farmers drive past it without a second glance. Yet scientists who follow these trails know exactly what they're seeing. It's Chenopodium berlandieri, the same native supercrop that once filled ancient storage pits 1,000 years ago. Today, wild goosefoot still grows across Louisiana, Arkansas, Kentucky, and up through Maine. It hides in ditches, beside railroad tracks, and along forgotten trails once walked by tribal gatherers. Soil tests from these areas reveal its quiet persistence. It continues fixing nitrogen and producing protein-rich seeds, even without human help. In some river valleys, archaeologists have mapped patches that have survived for centuries, spreading naturally through bird droppings and wind. However, the most striking thing is how modern science is catching up to what nature never stopped doing. Biologists now believe this wild variety could help restore degraded farmland and reduce dependence on chemical fertilizers. It's living proof that true resilience doesn't need a greenhouse. It just needs time. Therefore, the plant never vanished. Our attention did. People gave their focus to corn and wheat, while this survivor kept working in silence. As one researcher put it, it never left us. We just stopped seeing it. So maybe the next revolution in farming isn't hidden in some futuristic lab. Maybe it's already growing right under our feet, waiting for someone to look closer. Thanks for watching and being part of this journey through forgotten roots. If this story opened your eyes, stay close, because the next one might just change how you see